I can't see too. So the breath has given us song and given us story, and now we're traveling to well to different countries, and Sarah Abu Sharar is again like Donna at the crossroads of many stories of Croatia and Palestine and Arabia. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sarah Abu Sharar. Thank you.
I was born in Libya to a Palestinian father and a Croatian mother. And the world was new to me. And just like the world was new to me, that part of the world was new to my Croatian mother. And so every day, my mother took me by the hand and she took me into the souk, and we discovered the new lands. And one day, when we were at the souk, there was an older man walking by, and he looked at me and he smiled. And when he smiled, every single tooth in his mouth was gold. And I hid behind my mother in fear, for I thought that I had encountered a real life ghoul. And ghouls eat people. Well, my mother smiled, and she didn't have a golden smile, and she took me by the hand and she gently pointed at that gentleman, and she said, "See that man over there? That man has a very wealthy mouth." And then my mother took me by the hand back home, and I was tired by the time I got home, and she sat me on her lap, and I placed my cheek upon her lap, and I could still remember the smell of my mom's lap and the feel of her long black silky hair upon my skin. And my mother told me fairy tales. She told me European fairy tales and Eastern European folk tales. But I had never been there before. And so while my mother told me those stories, I imagined those European stories in Arab pictures: camels, ghouls, gold. And so when I encountered the story that I'm going to tell you today, it reminded me of one of the European fairy tales that my mother told me, but the story was from Palestine. And so the images were the ones that I actually imagined that story with. And so it was special to me because it was a bridge between my two cultures. And now this story is a gift to the land that I now live on, Turtle Island. And I'd like to dedicate this story to all the women who have chosen to be mothers. And I'd also like to dedicate this story to all the women who have chosen not to be mothers, also a very important choice. There was once a woman who could not have any children. Her husband was a working man. And one day a merchant was passing by crying his wares: "Pomegranate seeds for pregnancy! Pomegranate seeds for pregnancy!" And she took a cup and she ran towards the merchant and she filled the cup with pomegranate seeds. And then she looked up at the sky and she said, "Allah, won't you give me a little girl, or even a little boy, as good and as red as these pomegranate seeds?" And she drank it up. And 20 years later, she was pregnant. And her belly grew and it grew and it grew, and she pushed and she pushed and she pushed. And out came a beautiful little girl. She really was so beautiful. And when Pomegranate Seed walked the streets, everybody would say, Pomegranate Seed is even more beautiful than her mother. And her father began to pay more attention to Pomegranate Seed than he did his own wife. And one day, his wife asked him, why do you love Pomegranate Seed more than you love me? To which he replied, because she is more beautiful and therefore better than you. And she ran out that door and onto a hill, and she looked up at the star-filled sky. And she asked the stars, oh, stars, sparkling up above, who is more beautiful, Pomegranate Seed or me? And the stars replied, Pomegranate Seed. And she looked up at the moon, shining so brightly. Oh, moon up above, who is more beautiful, Pomegranate Seed or me? And the moon replied, Pomegranate Seed. And she looked at the Arabs and she asked the Arabs, Arabs, who is more beautiful, Pomegranate Seed or me? And all the Arabs replied, Pomegranate Seed. And she asked all the nations of all the lands, who is more beautiful, Pomegranate Seed or me? And all the nations of all the lands replied, Pomegranate Seed. I'd like to shed the blood of Pomegranate Seed. And the woman stayed on that hill until the moon went down and the sun went shining up. And then she walked back to the house. Pomegranate Seed, wake up. We're going to visit your uncle. But we can't visit my uncle. I don't know my uncle. Well then, we're going to meet your uncle. And she took that beautiful girl by the hand and she led her through the valleys and into the mountains. There are only hyenas and ghouls and other such creatures. The sun went down. It was dark. There was no moon. The mother sat with her daughter upon the bare rocks. The little girl, the beautiful girl, she sat closer to her mother. Oh, Mama, your dress is sewn to my dress, and your hair is tied to my hair, and I will place my hand underneath your head, and you will place your hand underneath my head. And with that, Pomegranate Seed fell asleep. And in the morning, the beautiful girl was awoken by the sun burning her skin. When she opened her eyes and looked over, she found that her mother was no longer there. Mama! 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 Ahula crept up behind her. Welcome to Allah's safekeeping, my darling pomegranate seed. And how do you come to me today? From a place of heaven to a place of hell? No, luck and good fortune brought me here. And with that, the hula took the beautiful girl by the hand, and she led her with the gazelles through the mountains and into a natural cave. She opened the door and she let the gazelles in first. And then she led the beautiful girl in. She bathed her. She clothed her. Barakallahu fiki. And may anybody who causes you harm be harmed by Allah. For I have been waiting for you for a long time. Oh, my darling pomegranate seed. And every day, the hula took the gazelles out to roam. And pomegranate seed stayed in the cave all alone. And when the hula would come home, she would call out, pomegranate seed, open the door for the gazelles. They have milk in their horns. They have milk in their teats. And pomegranate seed would open the door wide and all the gazelles would come running in. And one day, one of the gazelles went deep inside of the interior of the cave, and pomegranate seed followed it. And there, in the interior of the cave, she noticed houses. It was like a town. The hula crept up behind her, and she handed her a key. This key opens every single door in this cave. But you must not open any of the locked doors. You hear me? Not a single door. And pomegranate seed agreed. And the next day, when the hula took the gazelles out to roam, pomegranate seed took that key and she began to open every single door. She opened up the first one, and there she saw a faucet. She placed her finger inside of that faucet, and it came out pure gold. She closed the door and she opened up another door, and there she saw a woman hanging by the ceiling from her hair. She quickly closed that door and she opened up another door, and another woman hanging from the ceiling by her hair. Pomegranate seed, open the door for the gazelles. They have milk in their horns. They have milk in their teats. Pomegranate seed quickly went to close the door, but her finger, her gold finger, got stuck inside of the door. She opened up the door and she closed it. And then she took a handkerchief and wrapped it around the finger. She hid it and opened the door. Pomegranate seed, what do you have behind you? Nothing, nothing at all. Pomegranate seed, show me your finger. She showed her the finger. Pomegranate seed, didn't I ask you not to open those doors? Now I have no choice, but she could not bring herself to punish the girl. She loved the girl too much. The next day, when the Gula took the gazelles out to roam, a merchant was passing by those mountains, and Pomegranate Seed got excited, for there never has been a merchant in those part of the mountains before, and now she had some gold, and she took that handkerchief filled with gold, and she ran towards the merchant, and when the merchant saw her, he froze. Are you human? Or are you jinn? Are there any humans here? I'm human. I'm Pomegranate Seed. Pomegranate Seed. But Pomegranate Seed was taken deep inside of the mountains by her mother and left there for the ghouls to eat. No, I'm Pomegranate Seed. Is my mother still alive? Yes, she's alive and still living in that same way she did before. And Pomegranate Seed took all the gold that it was in the handkerchief, and she handed it to the merchant. Please, won't you give this to my mother? And when the merchant brought that gold to Pomegranate Seed's mother, she knew that Pomegranate Seed was still alive. I took that girl deep inside of the mountains and I left her there to die. And yet she's still alive. I don't want to be a mother anymore. And she took the gold out of that handkerchief and she called the merchant back. She took a comb and she placed it inside of the handkerchief and she wrapped it up. Please, won't you give this to my daughter and make sure that she bathes and combs her hair with it? I want my Pomegranate Seed to stay as good and beautiful as she always was before. And the merchant brought that comb to Pomegranate Seed. And when Pomegranate Seed saw that she got a gift from her mother, she took that comb and she immediately washed her hair, and then she began to comb her long black hair with the comb. And with the first stroke, the teeth of the comb fell out. With the second stroke, Pomegranate Seed's fingers fell out. With the third stroke, Pomegranate Seed lay dead on the ground. Pomegranate Seed, open the door for the gazelles. They have milk in their horns. They have milk in their teats. Nothing. Pomegranate Seed, Open the door for the gazelles. They have milk in their horns. They have milk in their teats. Still, nothing. If that girl is in there and she is sleeping, may God bring peace to her dreams. But if that girl is in there and she's snooping about, I will have no choice but to eat her. Eat pomegranate seed. And she opened the door and she found that girl on the ground. Pomegranate seed, pomegranate seed, pomegranate seed. She picked up that beautiful girl and she carried her outside. Oh, camel of love, oh, camel of the air, come and take my girl. Now, there was a flying camel. It belonged to a poor young man who was as handsome as pomegranate seed was beautiful. And when that camel heard that gula calling its name, it flew up into the air and it landed right in front of the gula. And the gula took that beautiful girl and she placed her in the middle of the two humps. And then she took all the gold that she had ever hoarded and she placed it on one of the humps. And then she took all the Egyptian rugs that she had and she placed it on the other hump. And then she took a white silk sheet and she covered the beautiful girl ever so gently. And as the gula watched the camel flying away with her girl, she knew that pomegranate seed would be all right. Now, the young poor man was lying underneath an olive tree, looking at all the animal shapes that the clouds make, when he noticed the camel flying. He got up. Izzle, Izzle, come down, come down. But the camel would not come down. On the life of whomever is on your back, Izzle. And the camel came down. Take whatever it is that's on my humps. Take the gold and take the rugs. I just want the girl. And he took that beautiful girl and he carried her to her mother, to his mother. And she began to prepare her for burial. And as she was putting essential oils in pomegranate seed's hair, she noticed 3 hard spots on her head. She pulled one out. Ouch! She pulled the other one out. Ouch! Ouch! She pulled the third one out, and pomegranate seed's eyes opened wide. And in front of her, she saw that young poor man with so little wealth, and yet so much heart. And she instantly fell in love. And then she felt the old woman's hands upon her body, and she knew that this is where she wanted to stay. And when the old woman took a look at the girl, she recognized her as pomegranate seed, and she instantly hid her from the Arabs. She told her that she must not leave the house because somebody might steal her.
Yes.
But when the poor man was out trying to hunt, and when the old woman was picking berries and sage, Pomegranate Seed decided to go to the water, for Pomegranate Seed had never seen the water before. And as she was walking the shores of the water, the prince, the king's son, was walking in the water as well. And he noticed her, and he instantly fell in love. And he went back to his palace, and he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep. And his father, the king, asked him, what is wrong? And he said that he is in love with Pomegranate Seed, the poor man's sister. But the poor man does not have a sister. He called forth the old woman. And the old woman told him that Pomegranate Seed had come on a flying camel for the poor man. And so she is a gift from Allah for the poor man. And when the prince found out that she had come on a flying camel, he knew that indeed she was a gift from Allah for the poor man. But because he loved that girl with all his heart, and he wanted her to be happy even if he was not, he gave the poor man half his wealth, and he married the young couple. And so Pomegranate Seed and the poor man, who was no longer the poor man, lived happily ever after, until they lived happily no more. And if my house was on Virtual Street, I would grab 3 pomegranate seeds for us to eat. 1 for Norman, 1 for the listeners, and 1 for the teller of the stories.